Ex-soldier found a wounded alien girl in the Wasteland, unaware she was the last heir of a fallen empire. The suns hung low over the shattered horizon, two pale disks smoldering through the dust. The dunes weren't sand anymore. They were shards, whole oceans of glass stretched to the mountains, glittering like frozen lightning. The old war had melted everything here, including the people who once lived on it. Heir rode the Wasteland on a scavenger bike that coughed more smoke than speed. The engine's hum was the only heartbeat left in a world humanity had scorched. He wasn't running from anything specific, just from the echoes. Every dune carried memories, the glare of orbital fire, the scream of cities turning white. He'd fought for the Republic back then, commander of the 19th Drop Corps. They said the enemy, the Dravari, were monsters who wrapped light around their veins and used storms as weapons. But when he saw them burning, he'd stopped believing his own propaganda. He deserted 2 weeks before the surrender and had been wandering since. Now the desert of glass was his penance. His AI drone, Kez, drifted behind him in a lazy orbit, its voice breaking the silence. Radiation spiked to the east. Also, your water reserves are pathetic. Ex-soldier found a wounded alien girl in the Wasteland, unaware she was the last heir of a fallen empire. The suns hung low over the shattered horizon, two pale disks smoldering through the dust. The dunes weren't sand anymore. They were shards, whole oceans of glass stretched to the mountains, glittering like frozen lightning. The old war had melted everything here, including the people who once lived on it. Heir rode the Wasteland on a scavenger bike that coughed more smoke than speed. The engine's hum was the only heartbeat left in a world humanity had scorched. He wasn't running from anything specific, just from the echoes. Every dune carried memories, the glare of orbital fire, the scream of cities turning white. He'd fought for the Republic back then, commander of the 19th Drop Corps. They said the enemy, the Dravari, were monsters who wrapped light around their veins and used storms as weapons. But when he saw them burning, he'd stopped believing his own propaganda. He deserted 2 weeks before the surrender and had been wandering since. Now the desert of glass was his penance. His AI drone, Kez, drifted behind him in a lazy orbit, its voice breaking the silence. Radiation spiked to the east. Also, your water reserves are pathetic. Again, Rin grunted. We'll find more when the ghost starts selling. Humor detected. Weak as usual. He almost smiled. Almost. Then the wind changed, carrying the metallic taste of ozone. The sky bruised violet. A storm was brewing, the kind that peeled paint off bones. He throttled the bike towards a canyon of black obsidian pillars, looking for shelter. That's when his visor pinged movement. A beacon blinked faintly through the static. Distress code, alien origin. 40 meters down in the crevasse. He should have ignored it. The last time he answered a distress call, the signal led him to a village already dead. But the blinking light pulsed irregularly, like a heartbeat fighting to stay alive. Against his better judgment, he turned. The canyon swallowed sound. The wind died as he climbed down, boots crunching on brittle glass. At the bottom, half buried in a pit of fused sand, lay the remains of a small shuttle, sleek, curved metal, scorched black. Symbols glowed faintly along its hull, looping Dravari script, alive even in ruin. Kez's optics whirred. Wreckage is recent. Power core still bleeding charge. No survivors detected. Rin stepped closer. Define no? 0 heat signatures, unless you count. Wait. A sound, a faint gasp, cut through the dust. Rin froze. Then he saw it. An arm, slender and luminous, beneath the cracked canopy. The skin shimmered with faint silver veins that pulsed in time with her breath. An alien girl. He tore open the hatch. The interior reeked of burnt ozone and blood that glowed faintly blue. She was strapped to the pilot's seat, armor splintered, chest rising in shallow spasms. Her eyes fluttered open for a heartbeat, pale gold, not human at all, and focused on him. She whispered something in Dravari, 3 syllables that sounded like wind chimes in a storm, then went still. Rin's first instinct was to back away. The Dravari were death to humans. Their blood could carry nanoplasmic venom, and the war protocols still marked them as kill on sight. But she was barely breathing, and that small sound, the rasp of life refusing to quit, cut through everything he'd buried. "Damn it," he muttered. "I don't do this anymore." He unstrapped her carefully. She was lighter than she looked, bones hollow like avian frames. Her armor had the crest of the old Dravari sovereign line, a half-sun over a broken world. He remembered that emblem from propaganda posters, the enemy's crown. Kez hovered beside him. "Commander, assisting an enemy combatant violates—" "Shut it." He lifted her. The heat from her skin felt wrong, too cold like holding moonlight. Her breathing stuttered, then steadied as he pressed her against his chest. The storm broke above them, hissing sheets of acid rain hammering the canyon walls. Lightning reflected off the dunes, turning the world into molten mirrors. He ran. The bike's engine screamed as it climbed the slope, rain sizzling against its hull. The drone zipped ahead, projecting a weak shield to deflect the worst of the storm. They reached his shelter, a bunker carved into a ridge of cool lava. Rin kicked the door open, stumbled inside, and laid her on the work table. The storm roared outside, drowning the world. Inside, only the faint hum of his generator and the rhythmic flicker of her glowing veins filled the dark. He tore open his medkit. Human nanites weren't made for alien biology, but they'd have to do. He sterilized a blade, sliced open her damaged armor, and stared for a moment. Her body was patterned with faint luminous lines, biocircuits woven under skin, a war species engineered elegance. Kez projected vitals. Pulse unstable, neural lattice ruptured, probability of survival 11%, make it 12. He injected the nanites, adjusted their frequency, watching the glow under her skin shift from silver to pale blue. Her breath caught, then steadied. She was alive, for now. He slumped into his chair, dripping rainwater, staring at her face. She looked impossibly young, maybe 20 human years, but alien ages never matched. The streaks of light beneath her eyelids pulsed in time with the generator hum. He told himself he'd take her to the nearest neutral colony once the storm cleared, drop her there and forget. But he already knew he wouldn't. He told himself the same thing about the child he tried to save years ago. That night he couldn't sleep. Each thunderclap outside sounded like bombardment. In the flashes of lightning through the viewport, he saw her silhouette on the table, still, fragile, glowing faintly like an ember refusing to die. He poured himself a measure of synth whiskey and muttered, "You're just another ghost, Rin. Don't start talking to this one." Kez, floating near the ceiling, replied softly for once, "You always talk to ghosts." He ignored it. Hours later, the storm calmed. He checked her vitals again. The glow in her veins brightened slightly, her breathing deeper. He noticed the edges of her ears, thin and translucent, almost like crystal blades. The Dravari had been beautiful, he realized, in a way that hurt to look at. Maybe that's why humanity destroyed them. It's easier to burn what reminds you of what you'll never be. He turned away, tried to sleep on the floor beside the furnace, but dreams came anyway. Memories of the siege of Karth Prime, the screams over comms, the little Dravari boy crushed under debris as Rin dragged soldiers through fire. He woke sweating, heart pounding, staring at the bunker's ceiling. Morning, or what passed for it, came in a dull red haze through the cracks. The girl stirred. Her first word was a whisper. "Where?" Rin approached slowly. "Safe, for now." Her eyes opened fully, luminescent gold, slitted like a cat's. She flinched at his voice, tried to sit up, then gasped as pain lanced through her side. "Don't," he said, pressing a hand to her shoulder. "You'll tear the sutures." She looked at his hand, then at him, confusion and fear mixing. "Human," she breathed, the word almost a hiss. "Last I checked." Her gaze darted around the bunker. Old Republic tech, patched walls, his rifle on the rack. "Why, help?" Rin hesitated. "Because you were dying. Should have let me. Already buried enough." Something in his tone made her pause. She looked away, eyelids trembling. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the wind scraping against metal. He poured water into a cracked cup and offered it. She sniffed it first, instinctively cautious, then drank in small, deliberate sips. The glow in her throat brightened. Kez hovered closer, scanning. Language patterns stabilizing. Neural activity increasing. You might want to move your rifle, Commander. She's watching it like it owes her money. Rin smirked faintly. She's not the only one. The alien, Alara, though he didn't know her name yet, studied him with eyes that reflected the entire room. She seemed to be measuring him. The scar over his jaw, the worn insignia half torn from his sleeve, the quiet exhaustion that clung to him like dust. Finally, she whispered, "You are soldier." Used to be. Her gaze hardened. Then you were the fire. He didn't answer. Couldn't. The words hit like shrapnel. She closed her eyes again, breath trembling, as if that single sentence had cost her the last of her strength. Rin sat back, jaw tight, staring at the faint bylight pulsing beneath her skin. He wanted to say something, an apology maybe, but there were no words that could bridge genocide. Outside, the storm drifted east, leaving only silence. Inside the bunker, for the first time in years, Rin Hale wasn't alone. He looked at her one last time before turning off the lights. The glow from her veins cast soft reflections on the metal walls, dancing like the first hints of dawn. And though he didn't yet understand why, Rin felt something he hadn't in a long time, something dangerous, something almost like hope. The storm had passed, but the wasteland still breathed like a wounded beast. Dust spiraled through cracks in the rock, while static ghosts danced along the ridge. Inside the bunker, the air smelled of old metal, antiseptic, and faint alien ozone, the scent that clung to Alara. Rin Hale sat on the floor sharpening his knife. The rhythmic scrape filled the silence between them. The alien girl lay on the cot across the room, eyes half open, watching. She hadn't said another word since the day before. Her breathing was steadier now. The nanites had done their work, though he'd had to reprogram them 3 times when her body rejected the human code. Her luminous veins now pulsed a steady rhythm, slow and calm, like a sleeping heartbeat. Kez hovered near the ceiling, its lens flickering. "Commander, patient's neural signature rising. She'll be mobile within a cycle." "Good," Rin muttered. "Means she'll be able to walk herself out of here." The drone spun a lazy circle. "And yet you haven't told her to leave." He ignored that. Alara shifted under the blanket, the movement deliberate. "Where is this place?" "Old war bunker," he said. "Used to be a forward outpost. Nobody comes here now." Her eyes scanned the room, rusted consoles, old rifles, a hologram projector flickering with static maps of a long-dead front line. "You live in a tomb." He glanced at her, half amused. "You're not wrong." She turned her gaze toward the small viewport where the sky shimmered red. "I thought humans fled this world after the bombardment. Most did. Some of us stayed. Someone's got to feed the ghosts." Her brow furrowed as if trying to translate the meaning. "You are alone here?" "Me and a smart-mouthed drone. That's enough," Kez chimed in. "For the record, I prefer brilliant conversational partner." Alara's mouth twitched, the faintest shadow of a smile. Rin caught it and looked away before she noticed. He didn't want to admit how disarming it was to see life on her face after the wreck. She sat up a little, wincing. The motion revealed faint light tracing under her collarbone, biocircuitry mapping her nerves. He turned instinctively, giving her privacy, but she spoke again. "You helped me. Why?" He stopped mid-motion. The knife's edge gleamed. "Because you were dying." "That is not a reason. Maybe it's enough." Her voice softened, uncertain. "Humans do not save Dravari. Not after the war. I'm not most humans." The words hung heavy in the room. Rin returned to the workbench, adjusting the rifle's scope, pretending the conversation hadn't touched something raw. She watched the set of his shoulders, the slow, deliberate way he moved, as if each motion kept old ghosts at bay. When she tried to stand, pain shot through her leg. She stumbled. Instinct overrode caution. Rin was beside her before she hit the floor, steadying her by the arm. Her skin was cool, faintly humming under his grip. The contact sent a flicker of energy through him, almost like static. She looked up sharply, their faces inches apart. Her eyes glowed softly, catching the light from the furnace. "Your touch burns," she whispered. "Sorry," he muttered, letting go. "Humans run hot." Hot and strange? Kez beeped softly. "If you two are done staring at each other like a bad romance hollow, we still have radiation levels to monitor." Rin shot the drone a glare. "Mute." "Muted," it replied cheerfully, and stayed right where it was. The next few days settled into rhythm. He worked outside at dawn, checking the perimeter sensors and refilling the solar batteries. She stayed inside, regaining strength, studying everything. The tools, the consoles, even Kez, who she eventually began to question like an anthropologist studying a relic. By the third day, she moved easily, though she limped slightly. She'd found one of his old jackets and draped it around herself, sleeves far too long, collar swallowing her neck. When he saw her like that, standing by the firelight, he was struck by how out of place she looked, an echo of a civilization that no longer existed, wrapped in the scraps of the one that killed it. That night, as they shared a silent meal of ration bars and reheated beans, she broke the quiet. "You were in the war," she said. He didn't look up. "I was." "Which campaign?" "Karth Prime, Siege of the Capital, the last push." Her expression froze. The light in her veins dimmed for a heartbeat. "That was my world." He stopped chewing. "Yeah, I figured. My people called it the Sundering. You called it victory." Rin's jaw tightened. "Call it what you want. It was hell either way." She studied him a long time, seeing something shift behind his eyes. "You regret it." He almost laughed. Bitter. Low. "Regret's cheap. Doesn't rebuild what we burned." She leaned forward, voice lower now, not accusing. Curious. "Then why stay here? This planet is poison." He met her gaze. "So am I." The words silenced the room. Even Kez didn't interrupt. Elara didn't speak again for a while. She looked into the fire, its orange light dancing across her luminous skin. Then quietly she said, "In my language, the word for forgiveness and survival is the same. Veshar. You live or you forgive. Sometimes both." He didn't answer, but something about that word settled deep in his chest. Later, when the generators hummed low and the night turned cold, Rin found her standing by the viewport. The desert stretched endless and silver under the twin moons. "You should rest," he said. She didn't turn. "I have rested enough. My dreams are full of fire." He joined her at the glass. "Yeah, I know the kind." Her reflection met his, a shimmer of light beside the shadow of a man. "Do you ever stop hearing them?" she asked. "The screams." She nodded. He shook his head. "Not really, you just learn to breathe between them." Alara's hands tightened on the sill. Her eyes glowed brighter for a moment, then dimmed again. "You are strange for a human, Rin Hale. You're strange for a Dravari." "Because I live?" "Because you still believe we can talk." For a long time, neither moved. The silence wasn't hostile now. It was something heavier, more fragile. Then faintly she asked, "You know my name?" He blinked. "You haven't told me." She turned, facing him fully. "Elara." He repeated it softly, letting the syllables roll from his tongue. "Elara." She seemed to test the sound of it in the air, then nodded. "And you, Rin Hale, you carry ghosts but no chains. That is rare among your kind." "Guess I dropped them somewhere along the way." She studied him a moment longer, then reached out, fingers brushing his forearm. The contact was brief, but her touch left a faint shimmer of light that faded slowly. Your kind burns, she murmured, but sometimes fire warms. Before he could answer, she stepped back, returning to her cot. Within minutes, her breathing slowed to sleep. Rin stood frozen, staring at the faint glow her touch had left on his skin. Kez floated closer, voice low. Commander, your heart rate just spiked. Should I be concerned? He didn't look up. Not unless you start writing poetry. Already drafted a title, Foolish Human Saves Bioluminescent Girl. Mute again. Muted. Rin sank into his chair, exhaling long. For the first time in years, the bunker didn't feel like a tomb. He looked at the sleeping alien, her face soft in the dim light, her body no longer rigid with fear. Something had shifted. He didn't know what or why, but he knew the wasteland outside no longer seemed endless. Maybe ghosts couldn't be buried, but maybe, just maybe, they could be shared. Outside, the night winds howled across the dunes like distant voices. Inside, two survivors of a dead war breathed the same air. And in the stillness between them, the first fragile thread of trust began to form. Morning bled through the cracks in the rock like thin copper light. Rin Hale woke to the hiss of the generator and the smell of dust. For the first time in weeks, he hadn't dreamed of fire. The air in the bunker felt different, less like the grave it had been, more like a place where breath belonged. Alara was already awake. She sat cross-legged near the console, hair silvering in the pale light, repairing a small sphere that hummed faintly between her palms. When she noticed him watching, she spoke without looking up. Your machines are crude, but loyal. That one kept me alive through 3 wars, he said, nodding toward Kez. The drone bobbed in mock pride. Finally, some appreciation. Alara tilted her head, studying its lens. It thinks for itself? It argues for itself, Rin muttered. She smiled faintly, then pressed the sphere's surface. It unfolded into a projection of blue lines, constellations, orbit paths, ancient coordinates. These are the old defense grids, she said quietly. My people built them when we still believed the stars would protect us. He walked closer. That ship you crashed in, you were trying to reach one of these? Her hands faltered. The sphere dimmed. I was trying to reach what's left of us. He waited, saying nothing. The silence stretched until she met his eyes. You deserve the truth, human. I'm not sure I do, he said, but she continued. I am not a soldier. I am of the sovereign line, the last living blood of House San. The title meant nothing to most humans, but Rin remembered the symbol he'd seen on her ruined armor, a half-sun over a broken world. He'd seen it painted on banners that hung above burning cities. The Dravari royal crest. You're a princess, he said flatly. Her expression didn't change. Once, before the fire fell. Rin set his jaw. That makes you a target. There are scavenger guilds who'd sell coordinates to your heartbeat. I know. She looked toward the window slit, where the horizon shimmered with heat. They are already searching. He ran a hand through his hair. Then you can't stay here. I did not ask to. The sharpness in her voice cut the air. Then she softened. But I will not run forever either. He turned away, pacing. What do you want, Alara? To finish what my family died for. Her gaze steadied. Beneath these deserts sleep machines older than both our empires. They can heal worlds or erase them. If I reach the core spire, I can wake them, restore the balance of the biosphere. My people called it the renewal. Rin stared. You're talking about planetary terraforming, that tech's myth. Her voice was steady. It is buried truth, and humans fear truth that does not belong to them. He didn't argue. He'd seen enough classified slaughter to know she was right. Kez broke the silence. Commander, long-range scanners, picking up thermal trails. 3, maybe 4 engines. 2 hours out. Rin cursed under his breath. They found us. Alara rose, favoring her heeled leg. Then it begins sooner than I hoped. He grabbed his rifle, checked the power cell. You can barely stand. She reached for her sphere, compressing it until it vanished into her palm like liquid light. I will stand enough. They spent the next hour preparing. Rin sealed the outer hatch, buried heat emitters, and powered down non-essentials. Ilara traced sigils across the wall panels, whispering in Dravari. Thin threads of light crawled over the metal, fusing seams shut. He watched her work, graceful, precise, alien. Each movement left faint ripples in the air. "What is that?" he asked. "Resonance wards. They bend sound, confuse scanners." "Old magic? Old science," she said. "Your kind once called it the same thing." When they finished, she sank into a chair, visibly drained. Her biolight flickered irregularly. Rin poured her water. She drank, then studied him over the rim of the cup. "You do not ask the question." "What question?" "Why help me at all, when every bounty hunter in this quadrant will kill you for it?" He leaned against the table, arms crossed. "Because leaving you in that canyon would have been another grave. I've dug enough." She considered that, then said softly, "You carry your dead with honor. My people would have called you kin for that. Your people tried to kill mine for less. And yours returned the favor." No bitterness, just fact. They held each other's gaze. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled, too rhythmic to be weather. Kez's voice cut in. "Engines closing. Pattern matches mercenary patrol. They'll sweep the ridge first." Rin moved to the rack, slinging the plasma rifle. "Time to earn our ghosts." Aelara stood, wavered once, steadied herself with the table edge. "If they see me, they will not leave without blood. Then we don't let them see you." They climbed the outer shaft, emerging onto the ridge as the sun bled orange over the horizon. Below, dust plumes marked the approach of 3 hover sleds, sleek and armed. The insignia on their hulls was human, Private Guild mark. Rin adjusted his scope. Scavenger Guild Delta. They sell bodies and relics to anyone paying. Aelara crouched beside him. "If they find the wreck, they'll trace it here." "Then we stop them here." He powered the rifle, the charge whining. "Kez, mark coordinates. Target lock acquired. Recommending diplomacy." Rin snorted. "You've never seen their diplomacy." He fired once. The first sled exploded in a bloom of white plasma. The others veered apart, engines screaming. Energy bolts hissed through the air. Glass dunes erupted around them, shards raining down like knives. Alara raised her hands, eyes brightening, until light poured from her fingertips. A translucent barrier shimmered in front of them. Bolts splashed harmlessly against it. The glow spread through her veins like fire. Rin risked a glance. "You could have done that earlier?" "I was unconscious," she shot back. "Fair point." He aimed again, taking down a gunner before the man could reload. The final sled turned tail, vanishing into the haze. Silence returned, broken only by the hiss of cooling glass. Rin exhaled. "That'll call company. You need to move." Aelara lowered her hands slowly, the barrier fading. She swayed, and he caught her before she fell. Her skin burned cold against his. "You'll kill yourself if you keep doing that," he said. "Power must answer purpose." Her voice was faint. "You humans call that choice." He eased her down, brushing stray hair from her face. "You talk like we invented it. Perhaps you rediscovered it." For a heartbeat, they were close enough to feel the shared pulse. His rough human heartbeat against the soft hum of hers. Then she turned her head away. "Take me to the spire," she whispered. "If I reach it, this world can live again." He hesitated. The soldier in him wanted to refuse. The odds were suicide. But another part, the one that had carried her out of the canyon, had already decided. "Then we go at dawn," he said. Her eyes opened, gold and fierce. "You would fight for a world that is not yours?" He looked out over the dead horizon. "Maybe it's time we earn one that is." That night, the bunker was quiet except for the wind. Aelara slept lightly, her biolight pulsing slow. Rin sat by the fire, cleaning his rifle, but his thoughts kept circling back to her words. Renewal, purpose, choice. Kez hovered beside him. Commander, statistical survival probability for this mission is below 5%. Yeah, he said. That's 5 more than 0. Permission to log this under reckless heroism? Call it whatever keeps your circuits warm. He looked toward the cot. She shifted in her sleep, whispering something in her language. Soft, melodic, the kind of word that could mean prayer or memory. Rin didn't understand the syllables, but he felt their weight. The last of the fire flickered out, and the bunker sank into darkness, lit only by her glow. He whispered to no one, "Tomorrow we stop running." Dawn rose blood red over the wasteland. The twin suns turned the dunes into molten waves, and the wind screamed across the valley like the voice of every ghost the war left behind. Rin Hale stood by the bunker's mouth, tightening the straps on his weathered armor. The air was dry, humming faintly with static. Storm weather. Perfect cover for a run that could kill them both. Elara emerged from the shadows, wrapped in a cloak that shimmered faintly, bending the light around her form. Her wounds were sealed, her eyes sharp again, golden fire in the dim morning. She moved with quiet grace, but Rin could tell every step cost her strength. "You ready?" he asked. She nodded once. "The spire sleeps beneath the northern dunes. 2 days if we move without rest." Kez floated between them, projecting a map of fractured terrain. "Correction, 2 days if we aren't vaporized by scavenger guilds, storms, or Rin's decision-making." Rin smirked. "Good odds." He slung his rifle, started the hovercraft. The engines coughed to life, scattering shards of glass sand into the air. Ilara climbed aboard, and together they roared into the wasteland, leaving the bunker and safety behind. By midday, the horizon shimmered with heat distortion. The landscape was a graveyard of old war machines, twisted mechs half buried in dunes, blackened armor plating poking through glass drifts like the bones of titans. Alara sat behind him, hands gripping the railing, eyes scanning every ridge. "My people fought here," she murmured. "I remember my mother's voice through the comms, telling us to run when the sky turned white." Rin didn't answer. There was nothing worth saying to that. The sky cracked suddenly with thunder. No clouds, no rain, just sonic booms. Kez's alarm blared. Multiple heat signatures incoming, 5, maybe 6 interceptors, closing fast. Rin cursed. "They tracked us." He gunned the engines. The craft shot forward, sand exploding behind them. Bolts of plasma sliced through the air, exploding on the dunes. Alara leaned over the side, eyes narrowing. "Hold steady." "What are you?" She raised her hand, veins igniting with light. The ground behind them fractured. Hundreds of shards lifting into the air and fusing into a wall of molten glass. The pursuing bikes hit it at full speed and erupted in flame. Kez whistled. "Effective, terrifying, 10 out of 10. Alara slumped back, shaking. Rin grabbed her shoulder. "You okay?" "Dravari power burns the vessel that carries it," she said weakly. "I can only hold so much." He didn't like the tremor in her voice, but there was no time. More blips appeared on the scanner. The guild was converging. 3 columns, pushing them toward the old canyon fields. Rin twisted the controls hard. "Hang on." The craft dove into a canyon carved from obsidian. Plasma fire rained from above, each bolt carving glowing scars into the cliffs. He guided the hovercraft through tight turns, engines shrieking. Kez dropped chaff and threw false signals, confusing their pursuers. Alara's hands glowed again, tracing sigils in the air. Energy rippled around them, static storms blooming like blue fireflies. The nearest pursuer's engine overloaded, spiraling out of control into a canyon wall. Still, more followed. One of the mercenary sleds swooped low, soldiers in scavenged armor firing grapples. Alara ducked. Rin fired back, hitting a gunner square in the chest. The man fell screaming into the abyss. Another grapple struck the craft, locking it in place. Alara's eyes flared. "Hold them!" Rin gritted his teeth, dragging the trigger until the rifle overheated. The mercenaries closed in, sparks lighting the canyon walls. Then Alara screamed, not in pain, but fury. The light from her body exploded outward. The grapples melted, engines overloaded, and the canyon shook with a deafening roar. The mercenaries were gone, just motes of glowing dust drifting into the wind. When the light faded, she collapsed. Rin caught her before she hit the deck. Her pulse was faint but steady, the glow under her skin flickering erratically. "Easy," he said, voice rough. "You're burning yourself out." Her eyelids fluttered. "I must reach the spire." He looked toward the horizon where the dunes rose into dark ridges. "We're close. Just hold on." They rode through the night. The sky above them shimmered with faint auroras. Dravari light fields, still active after centuries. The spire's silhouette grew from the haze, a colossal needle of black crystal jutting from the desert like the fossil of a god. It was beautiful, terrible, ancient. Kez's sensors flickered. "Energy readings off the charts. That structure's alive." Alara's eyes widened. "Yes, it feels me." Rin frowned. "That's supposed to be comforting?" Before she could answer, explosions thundered behind them. The horizon flared, ships descending, dropships, heavy and armed. The guild had called reinforcements. "Of course they did," Rin muttered. "Can't let a quiet day happen." He veered toward the spire, but the craft's engine sputtered, sand intake clogging the turbines. They barely made it to the base before it died completely. Kez beeped. "We've arrived. Now what?" Alara stepped down, legs trembling but eyes alight. "Now I wake the world." Rin followed, rifle ready. The spire's surface pulsed faintly beneath his gloved hand, warm like skin. It responded to her presence, lines of blue light racing upward, illuminating the desert around them. She placed her palms on the crystal and whispered in her language. The air vibrated, deep and ancient, like the planet itself was remembering how to breathe. Rin felt the hairs on his arms rise. "Whatever you're doing, make it quick. They're here." The drop ships descended, floodlights cutting through the dust. Figures poured out, mercenaries in scavenger armor, dozens of them, led by a tall man in dark gear. Rin recognized him instantly. Captain Varric, ex-Republic officer turned warlord, the kind of man who'd trade a kingdom for scrap metal. "Rin, hail," Varric called through the comms, voice oily. "Didn't think you were the type to hide aliens in your basement." Rin raised his rifle. "You should have stayed retired." "Funny. I could say the same." Behind him, Alara's glow intensified. The spire thrummed like thunder. Varric's tone hardened. "Step away from her. That thing's worth more than your life." Rin spat into the dust. "Good thing mine's already spent." He fired first. The battle erupted. Bolts of plasma tore the air apart. Rin ducked behind a shard of crystal, returning fire in tight bursts. The mercenaries advanced in formation, rifles blazing. Kez deployed a shield drone, projecting a flickering barrier. Alara knelt at the spire's base, hands trembling as energy surged through her. "It's answering!" she cried. Lightning arced up the tower, splitting the sky. The ground shuddered, and the dunes began to shift. Varric charged forward, swinging his pulse blade. Rin met him halfway, parrying with his rifle stock. The clash was brutal, blade against steel, breath against breath. "You always were a fool," Varric snarled. "You fight for ghosts, for monsters." Rin shoved him back. "Better ghosts than men like you." The ground erupted, blue light exploding from beneath. The spire awakened fully. Ancient Dravari defense constructs burst from the dunes, serpentine machines of glass and light. They tore through the mercenary ranks, beams slicing the air. Varric stumbled, looking around in horror. "What did you do?" Rin smirked, blood on his lip. "Didn't do anything. She did." He turned just as one of the constructs impaled Varric through the chest, the light consuming him in a flash. When the noise finally died, the desert was silent again. The drop ships burned on the horizon. The spire glowed steady now, no longer chaotic. Rin staggered to Alara's side. She lay against the base of the structure, skin dim, light fading. "Alara," he said, voice raw, "stay with me." Her eyes opened weakly. "It is done. The machines will heal the land." Slowly, he took her hand. "Then we made it." She smiled faintly. "You fought for a world not your own. Humanity was never the fire we feared." He squeezed her hand gently. "You haven't seen us on a bad day." He laughed, a soft musical sound, and her glow brightened once more before fading to gentle blue. Kez hovered nearby. "Commander, atmospheric readings are changing. Oxygen levels rising." She really did it. Rin looked at the horizon. The first real breeze in years carried not the sting of ash, but the scent of rain. That night, as the stars returned over the cooling sands, he built a small fire near the spire's base. Ilara slept beside it, breathing steady. He sat guard, rifle across his knees. Kez floated above. "You know this isn't over. Others will come." Rin nodded slowly. "Then let them. This time, humanity stands for something better." He looked at the alien girl sleeping beside the fire, the faint light of her veins reflecting in his eyes. "For her," he whispered, "I'd burn the stars again." The world was breathing again. Days passed since the spire awakened. The dunes that once shimmered with glass now shimmered with water, dew forming on blades of new grass that pushed through the cracks. The twin suns burned softer, their reflection caught in the first true oasis the wasteland had seen in centuries. Rin Hale watched the horizon in silence. He stood atop a ridge, his rifle slung across his back, the wind tugging at the torn edges of his armor. Below him, the spire pulsed with steady light, a heart beating for the planet itself. Kez hovered beside him, its voice uncharacteristically quiet. Atmospheric composition stabilizing. Radiation nearly gone. He did it. Rin didn't reply. His gaze followed the faint footprints that led from the spire to the small camp by the lake below. There, Ilara knelt in the shallows, hands submerged in the new water, eyes closed as if listening to the heartbeat of the planet. Her reflection shone brighter than the sun's. She was alive, fragile, but alive. He climbed down slowly, boots crunching through the soft earth instead of glass for the first time in years. Every step felt unreal. Ilara looked up as he approached. The golden in her eyes had softened to warm amber. "It grows," she said quietly. "The world remembers." He knelt beside her. "You look better." "I am not dying today," she said, faint amusement in her voice. "That's progress." She smiled, faint but real. "And you, human? You no longer carry the fire behind your eyes." He chuckled, rubbing his scarred jaw. "Guess I burned it out saving you." "No." Her voice turned soft. "You turned it into light." They fell silent, watching the newborn lake ripple in the wind. Fish, small, translucent creatures, darted beneath the surface. Kez hovered closer, recording data. Ecosystem reconstruction in progress. "Commander, do you realize this is the first spontaneous biosphere reformation on record?" Rin smirked. "Write that down, historian." "Already did." Title, "The Idiot Who Saved a Planet." Alara laughed, the sound bright and free. "Your machine has humor." "Picked it up from me," Rin said. "Bad habit." She turned toward him, studying his face. "You speak as if you will leave soon." He looked down, fingers tracing the sand. "I haven't decided." "You should." Her voice wavered slightly. "The Republic will return. They will want to claim what they destroyed. If they find you here, with me, they will kill you." He met her gaze. "Let them try." Something passed between them then, something deeper than words, forged in battle and silence and shared guilt. The wind carried the faint hum of the spire behind them, like the world itself bearing witness. Ilara reached out, her fingers brushing the edge of his glove. "You are bound to this place now, to me, whether you wish it or not." Rin didn't pull away. Maybe that's not the worst fate. Her hand lingered on his, and the glow under her skin spread faintly into his veins. Not enough to burn, just a warmth, alive and real. That night they built a fire beside the lake. The stars above seemed closer, the air no longer thick with radiation haze. For the first time in years, the night sky was clear enough to see the constellations. Rin sat sharpening his knife, habit more than need. Ilara sat opposite, tracing symbols into the sand, Dravari runes glowing faint blue. "What are those?" he asked. "Names," she said, "for those who fell. My mother, my kin, my people." He nodded. "I've got names too, just never knew where to put them." She looked up. "Here." She drew another symbol beside hers, then handed him a small shard of crystal from the spire. "Write them. The spire will remember both." Rin hesitated, then took it. The shard glowed faintly as he pressed it to the sand. He carved one name after another. His fallen squad, the villagers from Karth Prime, the ones whose faces still haunted him. Each name etched into light until the whole circle shimmered softly between them. Alara whispered, "Now they are not ghosts, they are memory." Rin stared at the glowing ring. "Feels lighter," he admitted. "That is what remembrance should feel like," she said. For a long time they sat in silence as the fire crackled, the stars watching. Then she said softly, "When I woke in that canyon, I thought I was the last of my kind. Now I know better. My people's world breathes again because a human chose mercy." Rin's voice was rough. "Mercy's a strange word for what we've done." "No." Her hand touched his chest. "It is the only word." The glow between them deepened, warm, gentle, alive. No magic, no ceremony, just connection. By morning the spire's hum grew quieter, settling into steady rhythm. Greens spread across the dunes like veins of life, slow and unstoppable. Clouds gathered overhead, real clouds, heavy with promise. Rin stood beneath them, rain tapping against his armor. For years he had lived in deserts of ash. Now the sky wept for them all. Alara walked to him, hair damp, smile radiant. "It rains," she said simply. He laughed, a sound that felt strange in his own throat. "Guess the world's crying happy tears." "Do humans cry for joy?" "Sometimes, usually when they realize they're still alive." She tilted her head. "Then today, you should." He didn't answer, but the grin didn't fade. Kez hovered overhead. "Commander, incoming signal. Weak, old frequency." Rin frowned. "Play it." Static. Then a broken voice came through. "Human. This is Outpost Meridian. Repeat, receiving unknown atmospheric readings. Source unknown. Is anyone out there?" Alara's eyes widened. "Humans survived here?" Rin's hand hovered over the comms. He looked at her, then the spire, then the greening horizon. "They'll come for this," he said quietly. "For the power, not the healing." "Then we protect it," she replied. He raised an eyebrow. "We? You think I will let you guard my world alone?" He laughed softly. "Didn't think so." She extended her hand. "Then we fight together. No longer enemies, no longer ghosts." He took it. Her grip was firm, warm, alive. Weeks later, their camp had grown. 2 shelters, solar towers, and a perimeter beacon broadcasting false coordinates. Rin repaired old drones. Alara planted bioseeds near the water. Life spread quietly across the land. Every night they sat beneath the stars. Sometimes they talked, sometimes silence said more. Kez documented everything: data, weather, growth patterns, even what it labeled unquantifiable human-alien emotional bond. Rin told it to delete that part. It didn't. One evening, Ilara asked, "What will you do when the Republic comes?" Rin smiled faintly. "Same thing I've always done." "Which is?" He looked toward the horizon, where dawn was breaking through the mist. "Stand my ground." She nodded. "Then I will stand beside you." The light of the new sun touched them both, her luminous skin reflecting gold, his scarred face soft in the glow. two survivors of two dying worlds, building one that could live. When night returned, he climbed the ridge alone for a moment. The desert below wasn't dead anymore. It shimmered green under starlight. The spire pulsed gently, a heartbeat echoing through the ground. Kez floated beside him, quiet. "Commander, if I may say, it's not often humanity leaves a place better than it found it." Rin smiled. Maybe that's the start of something new. He looked up at the stars, the same ones he'd once fought under, now looking back without judgment. He whispered, almost to himself, "We burned, we broke, but we learned to rebuild." Maybe that's what it means to be human. Behind him, he heard Alara's voice, soft, steady. "And maybe that is why the universe keeps forgiving you." He turned. She stood there in the moonlight, hair drifting in the wind, eyes glowing faint gold. For the first time, he didn't see alien or enemy, just someone who had chosen the same impossible path, to live. He walked to her, took her hand, and together they watched the dawn rise again over a world reborn. The wasteland of glass was gone. In its place, a new garden breathed. And for the first time since the war, the universe felt a little less broken.